So three ministers were in a conversation, as they often get, and they're talking about their congregations, they're talking about their lives, and they're wondering how they will be remembered, what their legacy will be. So they eventually get to this question: when you're in your casket and your friends and your congregation members are surrounding and mourning over you, what would you like them to say? The Baptist minister said, I would like them to say I was a wonderful husband, a fine spiritual leader, and a great family man. The Roman Catholic priest commented, I would like them to say I was a wonderful teacher and servant of God who made a huge difference in people's lives. The Episcopal priest said, I'd like them to say, wait a minute, I think he's still moving. Do you expect to be surprised anymore? To have hope in things like this anymore? Miracles are strange things. The psalm says, happy are they who have the God of Jacob for their help, whose hope is in the Lord their God. Now, when we talk about miracles, we talk about them either as something that never happened or as something that is minimal. For instance, it would be a miracle if he passed that test. It'd be a miracle if they graduated high school. It'd be a miracle if she finished that race. That trivializes miracles and calls them unexpected things or impossible things. And yet here we are reading in the Bible several things from this morning. The widow of Zarephath in 1 Kings. Now, another thing you should be surprised about, at least I think you should, is there are a lot of funny things in the Bible. And I didn't hear anyone laugh at one of, I think, was the funniest things in the Bible. She is so melodramatic, the widow of Zarephath. She just has a little bit of food left. And what she says is, I'm going inside to make a little bit of food for my son and myself so that we might eat it and die. My goodness. She has, though, lost hope. It's over. I got nothing left. I'm just going to wallow in this misery and just wait to die. That sort of lost hope, I'm afraid, is where a lot of people live their lives. You just sort of sit there in that morass and let it take hold of you. We also have this story from the New Testament. We've got this Saul Paul character. We've heard about him once or twice. Yes, Saul was really, really good at persecuting the church. You know, it's top skill on his CV. He's really good at persecuting the church and killing these Christians, this new sect. And so wouldn't you be surprised if you were in one of those churches where all of a sudden our speaker today is this guy who's been persecuting the church? They don't know what to say. The one who formerly was persecuting us is now proclaiming the faith he once tried to destroy, and they glorified God because of him. And then we have the widow's only son in the Gospel of Luke. We have a procession of life. You have Jesus and his disciples going down the road, being party people that they are, and a procession of death coming from the other way, mourners coming before. This procession of life and this procession of death collide and are given a new direction with resurrection as the turning point. Let's think about that again. A procession of life and a procession of death colliding and given new direction with resurrection as the turning point. That sounds like the Christian journey. We have the widow of Zarephath, the redemption of Paul, the widow of Nain, miracles. But miracles are hard to believe in, aren't they? You may have heard it said that we are, in the United States, a Christian country. You hear our founding fathers founded this country to be a Christian nation, sort of. The version that they were following at the time was a very populist movement. It was called deism, or at least when we look back, we call it deism. What deists basically believe is that if indeed there was a powerful creative force, God, if you like to call it, that power and creation happened long ago. Perhaps even up to and leading and including biblical times, but that's it. For the deist, yes, there is God, and God created everything, but like someone who winds up some master clock, after creation happens, God has been hands-off ever since, and we're on our own. That's basically what deism is. And it's helpful in some ways to think you're on your own because you have to take personal responsibility, which is a good thing. But it also locks God out of the equation. If we're on our own, God set up everything, and isn't it a great creation, but now we're on our own. That deist idea leaves us stranded. Thomas Jefferson, the good Virginian that he was, goes one step further. He's not so sure about those miracles in the Bible. Has anyone here ever bought that Jefferson Bible when you went to Monticello as a student? Yes. It's an amazing piece of work. Jefferson was a brilliant man, and he took, in the only way that he could, the English, the French, the Latin, and the Greek versions of the Bible, and he took the 4 Gospels and a little knife, and he cut them all out and made it one story rather than 4. And he lined up all of those different languages together. You probably just bought the English version if you went to Monticello. So it's an interesting thing to make the 4 Gospels just one story. You have to make a lot of decisions. They're not all in the same order. And for Jefferson's Bible, he left all of the miracles on the cutting room floor. There are no miracles in Jefferson's Bible. It makes Jesus into some sort of wandering philosopher. Maybe that's who Jefferson styled himself after a little bit, the wandering philosopher. And I think a lot of people look at Jesus that way, a really nice guy who said some really amazing things that maybe if we take to heart, we can live slightly better lives. That's remaking God in our own image, by the way. And it's easy to see how they would get there, the deists or Jefferson. It's harder to believe in miracles when things don't go the way that we would want them to. In the psalm this morning, we hear these wonderful words, this God who gives justice to those who are oppressed and food to those who hunger. The problem is, we know that not everybody gets justice who are oppressed, and there are still people who are hungry. It follows, the Lord sets the prisoners free. Well, we know that all the prisoners aren't free. The Lord opens up the eyes of the blind. Physically, metaphorically, there's still plenty of people who are blind. The Lord lifts up those who are bowed down. And there are an awful lot of us who are bowed down under the weight of the world. Particularly the weight of the world if we think we are all in it on our own. Truth is, I don't know why certain things happen and others don't. From why you didn't get that pony when you were 8 years old, to why that car accident happened that changed everything, or why cancer persists. I just don't know. But I do believe that miracles happen, that God is active in human history and is active in our lives today. You see, I was there when she fell into the hole in the middle of nowhere in a field in South Dakota. Some of you may have heard this story before. I was there when she twisted her knee and her ankle in such a wrenching way you could hear the pop from across the field. She was someone who had been in a car accident years before and had often had knee problems, had had surgeries before. So when you heard a pop in that knee, when her leg went into that hole, everyone knew that it was trouble. We were in the middle of nowhere on a wagon train in South Dakota. We were so far away from anything. We didn't know what to do, so we gathered around, and we were led in prayer, and we laid hands on her, not knowing what might or may not happen, and we prayed for healing for her knee. And we felt something It's hard to describe. I don't know exactly what to say about it, but we felt something. And as we left crying a little bit because we felt something that we couldn't describe, we look up in the sky and the clouds had formed an enormous cross. Not exactly straight, a little bit crooked, but a cross in the sky. And we thought, something has definitely happened here. Her orthopedist back at home had heard what was happening and was preparing for all sorts of help to be given out. But when she got there, she didn't need anything. The orthopedist didn't know what to say because her knee was fine. I was there when she decided to sleep in that one Tuesday morning. Every Tuesday morning she went down to the World Trade Center. She decided to sleep in one September morning. I don't know why some things happen. You have in your lives, I know because a lot of you have told me them yourselves, you have in your lives amazing stories. Little miracles and big miracles. And you don't share them like I don't share them because you either look crazy or people just want to say, oh, it's just a happenstance. But one of the things we hear from the Old Testament reading, the epistle reading, and the gospel reading is that when you share these stories, when other people hear them, their hope increases. There's a song going around a little bit now that has these wonderful verses. It says, no one laughs at God in the hospital. No one laughs at God when you're starving or freezing. No one laughs at God when the airplane starts to uncontrollably shake. Even those who don't believe hope, even if it's way deep down. Of course, there's a difference between hope and expectation. Do you expect God to be happening? Do you expect God to be active around you? Try to imagine if that widow's son in the gospel reading this morning doesn't respond to Jesus' call at all. Young man, I say to you, rise. Nothing happens. If he didn't rise, it might prove that there were no miracles. Or it might be that the young man didn't respond. Now that sounds silly. You get that opportunity, rise, sure, yeah, you bet. But how often have we been called to something new and unexpected, something that smacked of new life? How often might we respond, no thanks, I like it lying here. Thank you very much. Sometimes we're too afraid to be a part of the miracles. On the one hand, we don't want to seem as though we're expecting miracles, as though we deserve them more than others do. On the other hand, we fail to hope for God's action. And we fail to respond when the time comes. I believe God's miraculous power is most revealed in redemption, the bringing something good out of something bad. Of course, that's ridiculous too, absolutely bonkers. Something horrible happens, and good is pulled out of it, transformed from the detritus, drawn right out of the rubble and the ashes. The widow of Zarephath and her never-failing jar and jug points to the ultimate miracle of the newness of life found at our communion rail. The widow of Nain and the resurrection of her only son prefigures the ultimate miracle of another only son's rising again, bringing with it the promise of eternal life to us. The ultimate victory over pain and struggle and car accidents and cancer and war and death. Those ultimate miracles are the true promise. But I also believe it continues to act in our time, in people crying out, that one who formerly was persecuting us is now proclaiming the faith he once tried to destroy. In a man under a cloud cross in the middle of a field in South Dakota who was never quite sure about miracles, dumbstruck and beholding the woman that would be his future wife. No one laughs at God in a hospital. But let us take up our hope and laugh with God in the joyous hope of miracles in our lives and in the joyous celebration of the ultimate miracle of new and unending life in Him. Praise to the Lord who doth prosper thy way and defend thee. Surely his goodness and mercy shall ever attend thee. Ponder anew what the Almighty can do, who with his love doth befriend thee. Happy are they who have the God of Jacob for their help, whose hope is in the Lord their God.